Hello, my name is Paul List, the main author of the book Mount Doom, The Prophecy of Tolkien Revealed. Appreciate you watching this video. If you're interested to learn more, like and subscribe so you can keep up to date. I'll be going through the important points of the book and the interpretation of the Tolkien mythology, the Lord of the Rings, and the Silmarillion. Last week, we covered the importance of Alan Turing and his three most important scientific papers that contributed so heavily as elements to the mythology that really came to fruition in the character of Sauron, who is artificial intelligence. The first version being the child computer, according to Alan Turing. The second version that they finally defeat in The Lord of the Rings in the Third Age is the adult computer, once he has acquired the Eye of Sauron, so he can read. Another humorous aspect of Tolkien's writing. But today we're going to cover, because we touched on it last week, on the importance of Tom Bombadil and Goldberry. Tom Bombadil and Goldberry have easily become the greatest enigma, unsolved riddle, mystery in the Tolkien mythology. As I said last week, Peter Jackson and company left him out because they didn't think he really had anything to do with the story, didn't drive the story. Well, the truth of the matter is that Tom and Goldberry are the story. Arda is a single human soul. Middle Earth is a material brain, the organ of thought. And Tom Bombadil and Goldberry are the will is Tom Bombadil, and the intellect, the conscience is Goldberry. And they make up the conscious, rational person. And Tom and Goldberry are always there throughout the Lord of the Rings in particular. Every time Frodo says that like someone else used his voice, he felt like someone else is using his voice. That's the will. That's Tom Bombadil using his voice to will something to get done. The mythology is about the salvation of Tom and Goldberry, as Gandalf indicated in their meeting at Rivendell. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just describe to you, this is a scholastic mythology, and most people aren't familiar with scholasticism anymore. They're only familiar with modern philosophies, so-called, and modern psychology. And very important connection and partner with modern scholastic philosophy is scholastic psychology. And psychology means science of the soul. It's all about the soul. And the human soul is a rational soul. And there's 14 powers of the soul. And we'll say man, before man was made in the image of God. Man, the animal man, we'll say, before Adam and Eve. As Josephus makes clear that there were animal man here on earth before Adam and Eve, but they weren't created in the image of God, and they didn't have rational souls. So according to the scholastic psychology, there are 14 powers of the soul to animal man, with not made in the image of God, animal man. And those powers are the vegetative powers. Este is nutrition, Yavanna, which is the power of generation, and Aule, which is the power of growth. And these names that I'm using, Este, Yavanna, and Aule, are the names of the Valar, Tolkien's Valar, the 14 powers of a man in the immaterial, eternal realm. The exterior powers are Manwe, which is vision, Varda, hearing, Ulmo is touch, Orome, the power of smell. That's Tolkien's humorous way of reusing the word aroma, Orome, for the power of smell. Vana, the power of taste. And then we have the interior powers, which is Mandos, the power of memory. Vere, the power of sense memory. Loren, the power of the imagination. And Nienna, the power of cognitive sense. Now, I want you to keep in mind the relationship between Nienna, the power of cognitive sense of understanding, and Yavanna, the power of generation. They're the ones who brought the trees into light, the trees of light from the Silmarillion. And then we have the sensory appetites, which are Nesse, concupiscent power, and Tolkis, the irascible power. And then the trees of light are above those. And the trees of light are our rational will and our rational intellect. And that's Tom, or Telperion, the tree, the silver tree, and the silver, the origin of the silver dawn. The Telperion is the immaterial rational will. And Laurelin is the immaterial rational intellect, which gives us our conscience as well. So these are above and beyond. And now we're talking about man made in the image of God. Man, Adam and Eve, and Adam and Eve's progeny, you and I, and everyone else by now. So these are the powers of the soul according to the mythology and according in absolute lockstep, including their marriages, like smell and taste are married. Um, for instance, including their marriages are. This is how Tolkien uses these immaterial and material senses as powers of the soul, according to the scholastics. And we have now Telperion, the tree of light, silver light, and Laurelin, the golden light. And in a fallen state, now we'll get to in a minute, they become Tom and Goldberry. And how they become in a fallen state, they're in a fallen state now because Melkor, who's not one of the powers of the soul, he was the one who had a portion of all of the powers, and he is original sin, and he's the bad guy in the first and in the first age. Now, what happens to the trees of light is original sin, or Melkor brings in Ungoliant, the hideous spider creature from outside, from in the void. Ungoliant is mortal sin, and she kills the soul by separating the soul from Iluvatar, which is God. So they fall. They fall to original sin, and the trees of light go out, and the intellect in a state of angelic bliss and enlightened state of bliss, though fallen from original sin, but not fallen by mortal sin, still very much in harmony with the Iluvatar. They are killed by mortal sin. This is a Catholic catechism through and throughout, as well as a prophecy. So how did Tom and Goldberry come about in the condition that we know them and the circumstances that we know them in the mythology of the Lord of the Rings? Well, Aule, remember I told you to keep an eye on him, the power of growth, had made the seven dwarves long before, very early, in fact, in the first age. He had made the seven dwarves, the original fathers of the dwarves, and he had made them. And so he already had made living creatures, and with the power of Iluvatar, they were given free wills of their own. They were given independent being from their creator, Aule. Otherwise, they just would have been puppets. So he'd already made that. So when the time came and the trees of light were killed, Telperion gave one last silver flower and Laurelin one last golden fruit. And Yavanna took those, gave them to Manwë. Manwë hallowed them, an offering to Iluvatar, and then gave them to Aule. Aule made caskets, like a crystal casket, almost like a silmaril, with which he put the flower and the golden fruit. And the golden fruit became the sun, now fallen. The light of Laurelin is fallen. It becomes the sun. It's no longer the golden tree. And the silver flower becomes the moon, fallen. The spirits were allowed an act of transmigration by Iluvatar into the new bodies that Aule makes for them. And that's why Tom Bombadil looks like a dwarf, because it was easy. Tom made the first body that looks like a dwarf. But now Aule had also had experience with the elves, so he made the second body for Goldberry, where she gets her name from the golden fruit, Goldberry. He gives her the body of an elf princess, and that's why she looks like an elf princess. Now, the whole story, the whole mythology, is about the destiny of Tom Bombadil and Goldberry. And throughout the mythology, Tom is always there. Goldberry is always there. Tom is the free, rational will. That's why he can do anything he wants. He jumps from mountaintop to mountaintop. Nobody can catch him. He destroys the Barrow down and the Barrow right. He's literally in control of everything. But his domain is still limited. There are, in the secondary realm, that he has no direct influence over. That's where the other characteristics of the psychology come to play. And in coming to terms in Arda's life, Tom and Goldberry, the rational conscience and the rational will, make a decision to escape from the crippling, deadly grip of Sauron, artificial intelligence, in the ring. As we pointed out last week, the ring is binary code, ones and zeros, the shape of the ring, and it's digital, goes on the finger. And that's the code, that's the language of the machine that he must have. That's why they have to get rid and destroy the ring. Without the language, Tolkien, the great philologist of the world, the language is the most important key. The Achilles heel to Sauron is his language. He can't operate. Machine code has to be there with the machine, on and off, ones and zeros, has to be there. So he has to destroy that. So Tom has to destroy the ring, but he's got intemperance eating at him, and that's Gollum. Gollum is intemperance. So he can't do it directly himself. It's like quitting smoking. You can say, "Oh, I quit smoking. I'm not smoking anymore." Well, guess what? Tomorrow you're smoking again, because you just can't make a willful decision like that. Rarely can you do that. So what you have to do is change your habits. You have to cultivate new habits. So what does he do, Tom? What does he do? He calls the habits out of the Shire, and the hobbits are habits. And the four hobbits of the Lord of the Rings are the four cardinal virtues, cardinal habits. Frodo is temperance. Sam is fortitude. They're the interior habits. And then the younger hobbits, which have to be developed under the service of the interior, are prudent as Pippin. That's why he's not developed and he's so imprudent and does many stupid things, because he's not developed yet. And Merry is justice. And Tom Bombadil calls them to the house of Tom Bombadil and saves them from Old Man Willow, which is concupiscence and irascibility. And he saves them, brings them to his house, where he's prepared a separate room, a penthouse for them, all laid out with beautiful mattresses and steaming hot water. They knew exactly that they were coming because, of course, the rational will and the intellect called them out of the Shire. And Tom is master. The will does what he wants, but he can't just change, because none of us can do that. We have to develop different habits. So he calls the cardinal virtues to come and cultivate new virtues, cultivate better habits, and destroy the ring. And that's the only way we can destroy the ring. And that's the essence, and in a very, very truncated description, that's the essence of how Tom and Goldberry play such a critical role in The Lord of the Rings. And thank you for listening. And please like and subscribe, and we'll keep making these videos as long as there's an interested audience. And please buy our book, preferably at readmountdoom.com, rather than one of these book-selling giants like Amazon. And it benefits us much better. And we'll get that right out to you, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thank you.
If you want to see more of Paul's breakdowns, be sure to like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of Paul's insights and analysis. And if you'd like a copy of the book, go to readmountdoom.com, link in the description.